Before we external morphology on a fish is pretty straightforward. You have the mouth, which varies. It's got different bone groups that you'll learn about. The eye, this is the opercle right here, the opercle flap, and it protects the gills. It also serves as a pump on some fish to move water past their gills, so they don't have to actively swim and still be able to breathe. So this is the dorsal side of the fish, right? And this is the dorsal fin. So some fish have two dorsal fins. So this is the anterior dorsal fin and posterior dorsal fin. Some only have one. It varies. Right here on the side, this is the pectoral fin. Pectoral fins are usually on the side of the fish, and these are the pelvic fins. Don't get these two confused. The pelvic fins on some fish will be pushed up, so there's different pelvic fin placement, and you can see that in the book. It's on page 11 in the book. So there's jugular, thoracic, subabdominal, and abdominal. I would go ahead and call this jugular fin placement, okay, because it's pushed up so much. Okay. Does it say in front of the pectoral fin? Yeah. So this is thoracic. I'm sorry. This is thoracic pectoral fin placement. So this is, and the last fin is the anal fin. It won't be a paired fin. It'll only be one by itself. So if you do get confused, go start at the anal fin, go up. The next one's up. They will be paired. Will be the pelvic fins, and then the pectorals. First and second dorsal fin. And the tail fin is called the caudal fin. Right here, the truncated part right here in front of the caudal fin is called the caudal peduncle. Okay, and it's where for a lot of fishes, it's where the force is generated for movement forward. We also have a sensory organ on the fish that humans don't have, and that's the lateral line, and it runs across the lateral side of the fish. Most fish will have this. It has pores, and Dr. Barnum will talk about this in lecture, but these pores fill with water, and they have little hairs inside the pores, and they can feel vibrations in the water. So it's another sense that they have to feed. They use this to detect prey and also predators, depending on the fish and the life stage. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I think I covered everything. Here's the anus and the urogenital opening. The urogenital opening is in front of the anus on this fish. Some fish, it just looks like one hole, okay, because it'll have a flap of skin and it'll just look like one opening. Right here on the bass, you can separate urogenital opening and the anus out. Any questions on the external morphology? There is different types of scales, which is also talked about in your packet, I believe. So there are ganoid, which is like what a gar has, cycloid, which is what like a minnow has, placoid, like a shark. You have scutes, like a sturgeon. It's big pieces of bone is what it is. And this is the most derived structure of all the scales. It is a ctenoid scale. It starts with a C. But if you see it, if you look real closely, you can see little teni is what they call it. And the little bumps on top of the scale. Grooves and then the little bumps. And what that does is it produces micro turbulences in the water, and it actually makes it smoother and more hydrodynamic for the fish. Oh, it's falling. So you see the little teni for the camera?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll zoom in. Thank you.
Yeah. See the teni? Little ridges. All right. So this is a ctenoid scale. Ctenoid scale. And they also have a way to grip. So they actively grip, where a cycle would come off a lot easier. So I think that's about it for the external morphology. Let's cut this bad boy open. Look at the internal. So I'm probably going to pop this open and cut this on the dissection, but I'll show you where it is if I do cut it. Hopefully I can cut around it. So part of my thesis project was dissection, or I implanted radio telemetry tags into Guadalupe bass, which is the cousin of the largemouth. So I should be better at this than I am. Or I should be good. I'm not saying I'm bad, but I had a lot of practice.
So it's cousin of the large, but it's confused with the smallmouth.
Yeah, so it's actually more closely related to the smallmouth than the largemouth. Still have it. Okay. And we'll talk about that later when we get into the individual species identification for the final. So right here, I'm going to pop it so I can get to the rest of the fish. Right here, see that it's filled with air? It's like a balloon.
Mm-hmm.
This is the air bladder or the swim bladder, okay, of the fish. And it helps, with this guy, it helps with buoyancy. So it can control where it sits in the water column without having to do anything. Other fish, it helps them breathe. So they can actually, it's a different, and you'll learn this later, it's a difference in the type of swim bladder. So, but it does help with buoyancy and breathing on some fish, not this one. So I'm going to cut through it. We got a couple ribs. Cut through. Okay, you can look at most of it through right here. So, I'm going to cut this a little more. So this is the pectoral girdle up here that I'm about to cut through. You'll learn more about that when you on the bones.
It is pretty ridiculous. Are you talking about those girls that we had that project?
Yeah.
That they're all like bullshit lying to get fucking.
Well, I mean, it's not like they have to do it.
Gossiping. We'll start with the gill. So in a fish, you have the gill arch. That's the whole structure right here. On the gill arches, there's different parts. So, I'm sorry, this whole structure is a gill. So you have the gill arch, which is the bony structure, and you're actually going to learn about this in the bones. When you go through the bones, it's going to be called something else, but you will learn it. And you have, on the outside, these individual little filaments are called gill filaments, right there, and almost like a feather, right? Really fine. And on some fish, it's more fine than other fish. On the inside, so this is towards the mouth, you have gill rakers. See these things? And you can actually determine what the fish eats primarily based on its gill rakers. So these are pretty, and I know this because I've looked at other fishes, these are pretty, and I know what this guy eats, these are pretty far apart. They're spaced far apart, they're pretty broad. And that's just kind of, first, protecting the gills from all the food, but also it can kind of direct food into its stomach or esophagus, and it also can filter. So it'll let big things pass and catch the small things. On some fish, they're pelagic fish, they'll swim with their mouth open, and the gill rakers will catch everything, and it'll act as an active filter on what they eat. These guys, it's more protection than anything. So, gill arch, gill filaments, gill rakers. Okay, everybody got that? So let's look at the internal anatomy. So up there, I busted it now, but it's the was the swim bladder. So right here, this guy. So there's some parasites on there. So these, it almost looks like spaghetti right here. These are the pyloric ceca, and those produce digestive enzymes for the fish. So all the little things that look like spaghetti, and this fish has a lot of it. Usually the bigger predatory fish will have more pyloric ceca and shorter intestines, and so that helps break down big food items fast through chemical digestion. So pyloric ceca, digestive enzymes. Right here, this structure is the stomach. This dark structure right here is the spleen. So if you remember from zoology, the spleen helps produce, or it does produce, it's the source of production of red blood cells. And so that's always convenient for me. If I ever have trouble locating the spleen, it's going to be the color of dark red, right? It's production of red blood cells, the spleen. Don't get that confused with this bigger structure up here. This is the liver, right here. Fish's liver. And then up further, I'll cut into it later, but the heart is up here. And Dr. Byron will cover the heart with the shark extensively. So if you follow the stomach, you have the intestine. It's pretty short and pretty simple on this guy. See that? The intestine, the bigger strands right here. These are the intestine, as opposed to the small spaghetti of the pyloric ceca. This is the intestine, helps with digestion. On some fish, it's very much coiled, almost like a honey bun. I mean, it's much longer on some fish than others. What else do we have? Does anybody know on their sheet?
Gallbladder.
The gallbladder. So the gallbladder will be greenish in color. We'll come back to the gallbladder.
Kidney.
Kidney. Okay, so the kidney, and I kind of busted it when I busted the swim bladder. So you have to, it's above the swim bladder, and it runs along the vertebrae. So you see the vertebrae, the bottom of the vertebrae right here. On both sides, you'll see well, it's so bloody right now. You'll see a line, and it's in tissue form. It's not really an organ on fish. Like we have two big kidneys. These run the length of the vertebrae, and it's two kidneys, one on each side of the vertebrae. So it almost looks like blood vessels at this stage, and it's really bloody. But you can kind of see those, right? Okay. So let me look for the gallbladder for a little bit. So there it is. There's a gallbladder. It's greenish in color, pale green, and that also produces some digestive enzymes. You see it right here? And this is kind of faint. Usually it's more green than this.
Like underneath the...
Yeah, underneath the liver. You see it's that bottom part right here. You see it? It's kind of hard to see on this guy. It's usually a lot more green.
Will it always be close to the liver?
So it's attached to... It's in between the liver and the stomach, yeah. Should be on most fish. I don't know about all fish. is there anything else on your sheet, internal anatomy wise, that I need to cover? This is a male. The females will pretty much have one big ovary. Since this is a male, its ovaries are pretty small. And maybe the other one, if I get a female and the other one, I'll call it all over and I can show you. But you have the testes right here, right in front of the urogenital opening. And they're going to be different on the shark. So they do move, but right here are the testes for the male. You see that? I'm cut away some. So there's the testes. Okay, any other structures?
Can you show us the muscles on here? Or?
So yeah, I can.
Yeah.
So right here, you see these segments, these muscle segments. They are called, hold on, I always get this confused. Let me see your sheet. Myotome, myomere, and myosepta. All right, so this whole structure is called, so one segment is called a myomere. So in one segment, there's different parts. There is a line in between, you see these lines? Those separate the different muscle segments. Those are called myosepta. So within the myomere, you have the myosepta, and then the muscle within, the individual muscle strands within a unit are called myotomes. So one myotome plus one myosepta equals a myomere. Okay, that's the bigger structure. So you have, give me a little bit. Alright, so this is a cross section of the muscle. There's a sloppy cut. I'll clean it up for y'all. For the video, really. Okay. So it may not be super clear to tell, but you have epaxal and hypaxal muscle. So you have this horizontal septa, I think is what it's called. Muscles. I think it's a horizontal septa. Okay, it's not on there. So anyways, I'm going to call it a horizontal septa. So you have a horizontal septa right here, and it splits right along the vertebrae. Anything above, so dorsally, is epaxal muscle. Anything below it is hypaxal muscle. So it's just a way to distinguish the different muscle groups. Can you see that break? You see that horizontal septa? See it right there? And so anything above it, camera. Huh? Okay. Epaxal is above, hypaxal is below. I'm going to show you a couple more things. You see that septa? Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Camera 2. See the septa? Okay, so epaxal is above, hypaxal is below. So, within, so this is the vertebrae that you'll learn on with the bones, but there's two arches. Hey Miranda, can you give me a pen? Thanks. There's two arches. There is the hemal arch and the neural arch. The neural arch supports the spinal cord, and the hemal arch supports, or the hemal canal, I'm sorry, supports the, thank you, the hepatic artery. So right there is, it'll go all the way through, and that is the hemal side. It'll be more bloody. And the neural side is the spinal cord, and it won't be near as bloody. So if somebody cuts this open, say for a practical, puts a pin through that and then tosses it, which one is it? Is this the hemal or the neural arch? That's right. See that? Yeah? Okay. So it's more bloody.
It's on the top or the bottom?
The hemal is on the bottom. Neural is on the top. So they're two arches, and you can see them over at the on the bones on the vertebrae. You can see the two arches, one above, one below. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else that I forgot to cover?
You said the human was more bloody?
Yes, the hemal canal tends to be more bloody.
The hemo's on top, right?
Hemal's on bottom.
It's on page 32. Picture of it.
Anything else I forgot to cover? Oh, the eye. And Dr. Bond will do this with the shark. So the eye, and he'll explain the like full detail of the eye. But within all fish eyes, he'll talk about the different layers with you. But that's the lens of the eye, and that's where most of the imaging processing takes place. Not processing, I'm sorry. That's where most of the eyeball's imaging takes place. It's crystal clear. It's hard, made out of calcium carbonate, and so it's just kind of cool to see. You can like string a bunch of these together, make a necklace. That's what Dr. Barr said when he was dissecting. So he may say that. Just act like you never heard it. So that's the lens. Anything else? Trying to think. The heart's up here. Dr. Brown will cover that with the shark, so I'm not going to get into it.